Right, so got the pen working again. Cool. So we're just going to quickly go through the arteriovenous supply to the human and pediatric adult heart. I think I just said human and pediatric, didn't I? That's quite funny. So, right, let me just make you aware of a few things here. So this is the anterior view of the heart. This is a posterior inferior view of the heart. Note that a lot of these vessels are running to or from the apex of the heart. So we're aware of the aorta, aren't we? Brachiocephalic, left common carotid, left subclavian, pulmonary arteries and trunk, SVC and IVC, the left atrium with its pulmonary veins either side. Here we have this thing called the confluence of the coronary of the cardiac veins. Okay, this is a massive, really fat vein that receives a lot of named cardiac veins, draining the myocardium and the epicardium. But of particular note is this middle cardiac vein, this small cardiac vein, and then whip around to the front, this great cardiac vein. So the great cardiac vein runs in the anterior interventricular sulcus with this branch of the left coronary artery, which its full name is the anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary artery, or the left anterior descending, as it's called clinically. So if you take the left coronary artery, which comes off the left posterior sinus of the aortic arch, run along here. If you reflect back these auricles, as we'll see later, the auricles sit here and here, and they cover the roots and the proximal portions of the right and left coronary arteries. So if you're dissecting or if you're performing surgery or anything, you have to pull them back, you have to retract them in order to see the arteries to perform your surgeries. Good tea. So there we are, right. So left coronary artery, we have here, let me clear all this ink. So we have the left anterior descending here. We have the left marginal branch here. We have the proximal portion of the left coronary artery here. Now on this side we have the right coronary artery. We have a marginal branch. And we have variable branches that will be coming off here like this. Maybe I'll change the colour. So we have these variable branches coming off like this that supply the atrium, that supply the ventricle, the right atrium and the right ventricle. We'll cover the territories in more detail later. But just note there's an important branch, the sinoatrial branch, and there's an important atrioventricular branch. So usually the RCA supplies the sinoatrial node and the atrioventricular node. And that's really important. Because if there's problems with the energy supply of these nodes, you can have tremendous problems in terms of arrhythmias and other cardiac abnormalities. Okay? So, I put this in just to sort of mention that the auricle overrides this structure here, and just note the fat. Note the amount of fat that you've got in these sulci. Here's your left anterior descending and the great cardiac vein. The greyer one will be the vein, great cardiac vein. The red one here will be the left anterior descending. Okay, this is our right coronary artery, which comes off the anterior portion of the aorta. And the left posterior sinus will be the left coronary artery. Here's our SVC, here's our IVC. Okay, here's the apex. Right, here's really good because this sort of shows the anterior in full colour and then the posterior regions of the artery. So on the posterior surface of the heart, you've got them sort of greyed out, which is why I like these. Because this is kind of, this 3D overlay in 2D is how you will visualise angiograms. When you're looking, there will not be a three-dimensional perspective. Now, there's a lot of software that claims to build up a nice 3D image. I imagine that by the time that we are more senior, this will be a standard thing. But at the moment, it's very 2D, it's very flat, as the standard, particularly in the NHS. So you've got the RCA coming off here, giving off various arterial venous branches, including to the SA node and the AV node, and a few more areas of the septum and things that we'll mention in a minute. Then we have the marginal artery, runs around the back in this atrioventricular sulcus, and then descends down to form PIVA, the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery, or the posterior interventricular artery. Whichever artery forms PIVA is the dominant. So if it's this side, then this is a right coronary artery dominant supply, left coronary artery dominant is the other supply. So have a look at a few of these cardiac veins. We have a great cardiac vein running with the lad, turning around here and entering the confluence of the coronary sinus, right? We have the middle cardiac vein doing the same thing. And then we have a small cardiac vein, which is normally with the margin or just posterior to it here, running around and joining the confluence. There are many other unnamed veins, right? As Erin said in the first lecture, we are doing 25% of the anatomy that anatomists do. And I can vouch for that, having done it. There's a lot of things here that are named that we don't do. Do not worry about them. If you see anything else in books, know that what we've covered here is what they want you to know and what the GMC want you to know, what a junior doctor needs to know. So, dissection pictures next. This is your warning. If you don't want to look, don't look. Pause me now. Here we go. Right, so here's an open thorax. So I'm going to number a few things for you to sort of think about what they could be. So what is number 1? What is number 2? Number 3? Number 4? Where else could we go? These black things. Number 5. Number 6. This in particular, number 7. What do you think number 8 is? What do you think number 9 is? What do you think number 10 is here? What do you think number 11 is? This little strap here. What do you think number... Oh, no, we won't do that. That's mean. 12 is. I think that's probably enough. Yeah, probably. Okay. So, what do we think? Can I do this? Yes, I can. Okay, so number 1, you can pause this, have a go, if you want. Otherwise, number 1 is the thymus gland, right? Number 2 is the aortic arch, the ascending thoracic aorta, up here. And then the aortic arch moves this way, so from the right side, arching over to the left-hand side. So you've got your pulmonary trunk up here. Number 3 is your right auricle, overlying and coming off of the right atrium. Number 4 is the apex of the heart. Number 5 will be your superficial epigastric vessels. Number 6, where's 6? Number 6 here, this is pericardium. So this is the parietal layer of serous pericardium stuck onto the fibrous layer of serous pericardium. So they're basically together. The visceral layer of serous pericardium will be on here, nice and shiny. 7, so you can see here, I hope you can see here, that this is the right lung. This will be a portion of the middle lobe of the right lung. And then, where's 8? So here's 8. So this is pectoralis. So these are probably both pectoralis major with slightly different heads. There could be pectoralis minor as well here. This could be a bit of pectoralis minor. Normally minor and major have merged a bit more than that. So maybe, so this is definitely major, and that's probably pectoralis minor. Number 10 here will be your serratus anterior. Number 11 is the clavicular head of SCM, and number 12 will be your external intercostal muscles. Okay, I put this on because it's a really lovely dissection of the phrenic nerve, anterior to the lung hilar, and the vagus nerve. Look at it recurring underneath the arch of the aorta there. And what I want to draw your attention to here, this is really important. Look at the amount of fat here. This is all fat. Everything yellow is fat. And look at the auricle. Can you see the right coronary artery there? Well, maybe a little bit here, maybe a bit of the marginal branch here. But can you see it here in the atrioventricular sulcus? No, you can't. You have to reflect the auricle back. You have to move the fat away in order to expose it. Okay? Here's your SVC, here's your IVC. Oop, wrong button. Right, so my question to you here would be, which one's the aorta? And which one is the pulmonary trunk? What's really good here, actually, is the right coronary artery and the left coronary artery. So there's your left anterior descending, here's your left auricle. So the circumflex will run under here, give off the left marginal branch, and here are some variable ventricular branches coming off here, and then your right marginal branch. So that should tell you everything you need to know. There's your aorta, there's your pulmonary trunk. Aorta will be coming off here, so the RCA will be coming off here, and the LCA running behind the pulmonary trunk to come off here, the left posterior. Okay? Right, and here's another view. Lovely dissection. So you can see how variable these little arterial branches for the ventricular system are here. Loads of them. And you get a bit of a marginal one here. So this stuff really isn't much to write home about in terms of actual properly written things. You tend to get a nice big marginal that'll run along here. But, again, really variable. Really variable. Here's your lovely arching aorta. You can see the RCA coming off of the anterior portion there. You can see the SVC and the IVC. You can see the auricle here. Here's a lateral view, a left lateral view. So, again, your circumflex will be running around here. This will be your great cardiac vein coming to the confluence underneath here. Here is your left marginal artery with a corresponding vein going into the confluent that's unnamed as far as we're concerned. PIVA will be down here, and the LAD will be up here, right? So there's your LAD. Boom, boom, boom. And this, as we said, great cardiac vein. Okay? So the territories covered by the coronary arteries, this was a formative exam question. So we've got our right atrium up here. Maybe I'll colour it in. Right atrium here. Right ventricle down here. The posterior third of the interventricular septum. So like here. Posterior third of the interventricular septum. The sinoatrial node. The interventricular node. The atrioventricular node. And the interventricular septal fibers. Okay? So very important. Make sure you've got that written down and learned. Now if we move to the left side, left atrium, left ventricle, the anterior 2/3 down to the apex, including the conduit AV bundle, but not the IVS branches. Okay, so remember that we have AV node, AV bundle, and then right and left bundle branches, right? Well, this is where it gets confusing. So this AV bundle is LCA, but these are RCA. Okay, so your left and right bundle branches versus that. Okay. And there we go. Take a breath. Whew.